I'm joined by Councilor Carney, Councilor Hogan, Councilor Allen. So I guess Commissioner Robinson, do you want to start first with legislation for your section of the department?
Yes, we have legislation for the authorization and bonding for the 2021 road reconstruction program. So,
okay, you want to take us through that?
Yeah, the authorization, the total cost will not exceed 3.25 million. I think we have a list attached to that as well. And that's it. I mean, if we want to go over the list and how we came up with the streets, I got Neil Burke, who's works for D.P.W, that can explain the process.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful just to walk us through the process of how the streets got selected.
And Neil, are you on? Guess they left me out to dry.
I can take that, Jeremy, if you want.
Okay, yeah, please. Who is Kevin Hunter?
Yep. Hi, guys. So I just used the map, the MSTC map that they did for us over last year, and I just I took the worst streets with all the complaints that I get, and the knowledge that I have of all of our bad streets, and I put a list together, and 99% of them, I believe, maybe 100% of them are on that list as being, I guess, the worst in the city. So that's basically how I came up with the list.
And I know we've talked a little bit about the capacity of our department to do it and potentially using an outside contractor. So can you talk us through how that would relate to this list?
Right now, we have Roselli. They're going to be doing a street off our last year's list. And once they finish that one, I believe they're going to start next week. And what's it? What are they doing? They're doing Wolf Street, yeah, from Lodi up to Carbine. And once they get done with that, we're going to talk about giving them a few more. I'm going to sit down with them, and we want to see what type of work they're going to give us before we start giving them more streets.
And I know one of the things we've talked about in the past is, when you look at this list, such a huge percentage of the money we're spending is on curbs. I mean, if we had a chance to look at any of that in terms of whether or not there's alternatives or a better use of our funds.
Well, when I made this year's list out, a lot of the streets, if we went back and looked at prior lists, I eliminated a lot of money worth of curb. I mean, there's a few streets on there that have pricey curbs, but a lot of them are in the 70 to 80, $30,000 range. Trying to get an idea of concrete. I don't think concrete's a good idea for the city of Syracuse, but I'm trying to get an idea of what it's going to cost to. We got prefab concrete, like a big granite stick of a 6-foot piece of concrete curbing compared to a machine that puts it in. There's a lot of different how to explain it. Well, when you do, let's see, we could have a prefab piece of a 6-foot piece of concrete curbing, or I'm sorry, yeah, concrete curbing that goes in the ground. Most of the time, there's only one business around, I believe, in upstate New York that would do the concrete curbing, or then you would have to have a machine put the concrete curbing in, which that entails much more digging. You dig a 12-foot trench when you do a piece of granite curbing. When you do concrete curbing with a machine, you have to dig 36 inches wide. So you're doing a foot with concrete, with granite compared to 3 foot, which entails you're going to spend pretty much the same amount of money putting in concrete than granite. I'm trying to get something on paper so you all can see that instead of just listening to me.
Yeah. No,
It hasn't been easy.
I think, and I know Corey, you're on this too. I mean, I think, and Kevin, this isn't something you don't already know, but basically, I think our roads are deteriorating faster than we're able to replace them, right? And that's like the structural problem we have right now with our roads in the city. So at some point, we have to think about, what's a way we can do this more efficiently so that we try to start heading in the right direction. And it may not be the case that the curbing is the right way to do that, but I think we do need to kind of acknowledge that the problem is so big that we need to start being creative about how we're going to do it. So I think that's just a kind of a larger conversation. Continue. That's just my point.
No, I agree.
And I think Neil is also on the line. Jim, he might be listed as a call-in. Oh, no, there he is. There's Neil.
Sorry for the delay.
Okay.
If it makes it any easier, I was with Marty on another call, so we can blame him. So again, sorry I'm late. Sounds like you were right in the middle of something.
Backing up, we were talking about how the roads were selected for the paving schedule. Kevin took us through that a little bit. I don't know if there's anything specific you'd want to add there. And then we were talking about concrete curbing.
Okay, I'm sure Kevin knocked it out of the park with the road ratings. Basically, we had our favorite third party SMTC come in and give us a fair and unbiased rating. And that's all available. You can see it on the website, which, it was hosted on the City of Syracuse's website. There were press releases. You can just type in Syracuse road ratings and Google. It comes to a site. Click on it, see the rating, see a picture of each block. It's very exhaustive, and we're going to do that year over year now. So we'll have a complete record of what we're doing, new techniques. Are they working? Are they panning out? Are we spending our money right? We'll be able to see all of it.
So I guess to that point, Neil, let's say a constituent calls us and their street isn't on here, but they feel their street is bad. Do you feel like it's clear if you look at the map that you can kind of tell that it's in the pipeline, or how would you communicate something like that to a constituent?
So if, say, a constituent rings in and says, I don't agree with the rating, you're saying?
I don't think we want to debate it with them, but I think it's more that, how do they have a sense of the prioritized level of what a particular street is for next year or the year after that?
So we haven't had this comprehensive amount of data to work with ever. So this is new for us. We had a polite surprise in that our roads weren't rated quite as poorly as we thought they were going to. We're actually in line with a lot of our other municipal partners in the area. So off the bat, we're in better shape than we thought we'd be. How we're going to prioritize roads it's tricky because we obviously have more roads to pave than we do money in the budget, and their decisions have to be made. So there are a number of other factors here that have come into play. Record of street cuts for roads plays in here. So if we know that there's been water main breaks and all of these other things, that plays into our prioritized ranking. But even though we have a prioritized ranking on our end, it doesn't mean it spits out 6 streets that we're going to know we're going to pave this year. It just has some rise to the top, and they're in bright red, and some are below in pink, but they're all important. We also want to spread out some of the roads that we're reconstructing geographically. We don't want to do everything just in one quadrant or just do everything on the city line. We obviously have to take a look at, are we near schools? Are we near parks? Other generators? Is this in the path of the highway? All of those things come into play. So there's not like a quick, easy elevator pitch to give to someone other than we're working with a lot of data to have a comprehensive list.
Okay. I know this is a little bit off topic, but adjacent to what we're talking about. In terms of street cuts, from a legislative perspective, obviously we all drive around and we see how detrimental they are. Should we be looking at it legislatively to change the way that's governed to work with our partners better?
So ideally, when we come and pave a street, it's not a secret. We let everyone know what we're doing on that block. So that is the time to upgrade your connections, take a look at your sewer, TV your lines, all of that. But inevitably, as soon as we lay down that asphalt, someone comes to us with an emergency request saying my gas line is leaking or whatever it may be. So there's always a cut. In theory, we have a 5-year moratorium on cuts into fresh pavement, which we're getting better about holding people to. But having this amount of data helps us say no and helps us work with our partners, not just to say no, but say, now's the time to upgrade your services. Now's the time to deal with the lead water or whatever it may be before we get in there. So we're getting better. We can obviously do more in legislatively.
I guess we're just, when we see, National Grid's contractors cutting the roads, it's pretty clear that the deterioration is very, very steep, right? So should we be changing the percentage where, if they do a certain percentage, they're obligated to redo the whole road? Is that something that the legislature?
So I'm gonna, I don't know if Mary Robeson can chime in here, but I know engineering was playing around with some new restoration guidelines and was using some of the projects up in the university area as kind of a pilot for that. So, I think we were waiting until the springtime to see how everything held up. Mary, I know you're not totally prepared to talk about this, but if there's any information you could offer.
Yes, I think I need to get back to you, but we did do a different restoration standard last summer on SU area, and we're evaluating it, but I believe actually that SU has to redo some of that area. Unfortunately, we picked a sample project and then their steam line blew or something. So let me look into it and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, Mary, let's talk offline. I'm really interested in that. So definitely would love to.
Yeah, we've been researching other municipalities and what they've been doing. And I know one of my engineers did find another standard that he was interested in pursuing more. So I guess to summarize it, it's a work in progress.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone else on this piece of legislation?
Councilor Green, this is Nader. Could I ask a couple questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So it was mentioned about the Rosselli, Kevin, doing Wolf Street. Are they using our asphalt plant for the asphalt?
No.
Was there any consideration in that conversation with them? Was this a competitive bid?
Corey, you can talk about that.
Yeah, so we're piggybacking off the county's contract. So we didn't bid it out initially. We are using the county's contract because they already contract with Rosselli, and it's really a pilot to see whether or not Rosselli can. The roads that we have in the city are different than the ones in the county, and so the idea was to provide them with a number of roads and see how they're able to perform and if what they're able to provide meets our standards. And then I think at that point we could certainly explore. Does it make sense for them to use our asphalt? I mean, they also create their own, and I'm not sure how much that would impact any costs or whether it would have any impact at all. I think the idea was to see if they could deliver the product and then pursue, if it does work, pursue a contract with them that would better suit the city's needs, which might include, where the asphalt is sourced from.
Thank you. So I may be out of my league, and Kevin, jump in to answer this. But historically, the county and the state, when we asked previously on the council to have, when any road work was being done in the city, whether it was a county road, a city road, a state road, that, the consideration be given to the utilization of the asphalt plant, because we still owe money on that. We refinanced it, and it's a great enterprise, but it's being sorely underutilized for a number of reasons. But the pushback always came that they use different formulas for their mix, and therefore that they couldn't use it on county roads or state roads or city roads. I mean, on county or state roads. So if we're piggybacking off the county contract, I'm assuming who's setting the standards in terms of the mix, the formula? Is it Roselli dictating it? Is it the county contract? Is it the city? Nobody has to answer that now, but it's just kind of a rhetorical question. Because in the interest of time, I will follow up on this. Relative to Councilor Green's concern for the concrete, again, this is something that has been raised historically. To the best of my knowledge, and Kevin probably can speak to this better than I, or Neil, or the commissioner, but I'm aware that it's been probably 15, 18, maybe closer to 20 years. Concrete curbing was put in on Euclid Ave from Kimber Road to the end of the school district's property. That's held up through all the weather and the plowing, et cetera, quite well. That's the only place that I know that concrete has been utilized. And it, as I said, has certainly weathered our weather and a use very well.
So I'm happy to jump in and answer that one. This is Neil Burke. With the curbing, we have been evaluating this. We've had our eyes on curbing for a while, and obviously we have a lot of different types of curbing around town. Old streets might still have the sandstone Medina. A lot of curbs now have granite. Some places we've done concrete. There's a few areas in the city we've done concrete. And so what we're going to do this year is we made sure that our street features contract had concrete curbing in quantities that would allow us to try out some strategies on a few blocks and evaluate it, rather than turn over wholesale and say, this is the year we're going all concrete. Obviously, we know other municipalities use concrete. The state uses concrete on their job. You take a look at Teal Ave. Those are all concrete curbs that were put in a year ago. It can last. It can be durable. It's applicable in a lot of different situations. Our research has shown that the installation isn't quite apples to apples. So there's a bit more excavation. There's a bit more labor involved there. So it's not as if there's an enormous cost savings. It's not as if we're going to save millions and millions of dollars this year by switching to concrete over granite. However, we're going to try it this year. We're going to see how it holds up. We're going to see how it's actually installed and run the numbers. And that's the approach we're going to take. The majority of what we do will likely be granite, but the best way we can save money is to evaluate our curbing ahead of time. And Kevin did a really good job of this last year that let us get to more streets and pave more streets. When curbing's half the budget, the more curbing we can save that already exists, the more curb cuts that don't have to be resized because they've been evaluated to be compliant. Those are the things that really save dollars and pay those dividends back to us.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues, Neil. I mean, I think one of the arguments for granite is that it kind of lasts forever, but the asphalt doesn't. And then when we're replacing the asphalt, it seems like a lot of the times we're replacing all the curb anyway, right? So does that seem to be your experience, that the curb's okay, but when you redo the asphalt, you're going to get new curbing anyway, so it kind of defeats the purpose?
If we can save something, if Kevin and his crews can save something, they're going to save it. We can't really speak to how things were done.
Kevin, what's your experience though? I mean, what percentage of the time are you able to save it?
Most of the streets that we do a total replace, it's going to be the red Medina, the old red Medina that was put in the 40s. And then you come across maybe 20, 30-year-old curb that needs to be replaced, but the majority of the curb I try to keep and just reset and reuse.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone else on this?
Counselor Green, I just wanted to point out when we do mill and pave roads, as required by ADA, we do have to upgrade the corners if they're not meeting current ADA standards.
Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions, I mean, I'm happy to move this forward. I think Councilor Carney is the only other one from DPW here. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. I'll touch base. It's Councilor Rudd and Joe, so make sure they're okay with it. But other than that, I think we're ready to move this forward to the full agenda. Okay. Commissioner Robinson, any other items?
Nope, that's the only item I had. Thanks for helping out everyone, team, for clarifying all that information for Councilor Green. But that's all we got for DPW.
Mary?
Hello. I have a few items. My first set of 3 items is related to the milling and paving of State and Salina Street. We put the project out to bid, and unfortunately, the bids came back high. We need approximately another $1.282 million to be able to award this project. DOT graciously has found the funds for it. So that would provide us 80% funding. These are not the normal TIP funds. It's funds that really are outside the region that I guess DOT is in control of. It's similar, Councilor Driscoll, to the funding that they're using for the I-81 preliminary design at the SMTC meeting that we attended yesterday. So I don't have formal approval from SMTC for this funding, but the formal approval will be May 7th. So the reason I'm putting this on the May 11th agenda is because we are approaching the 45-day limit to award the project. So by May 11th, when you vote on this, I will have formal approval from SMTC, but SMTC assures me that nobody else can really go after the money because it's not our local money. So we will be, so I have bonding, project authorization, and the agreement with New York State DOT. And also we received some Marchicelli funding for the construction phase. They have given us so far 1.237 million. So that represents, it's 12.7% of what we originally had allocated for construction. But they're also going to be applying for the balance of Marchicelli funding so that we get the 15%, but we probably won't get it until next spring because they only award Marchicelli funding once a year. So I'm amending the 1.2 million additional funds for the project, and I'm also adding the 1.237 million in Marchicelli funding that we're going to be getting so far. But I should be coming back to you probably next spring to add the balance of Marchicelli funding so that we get the full 15% funding. Any questions on that?
I think Councilor Carney, are you okay with this?
Yeah, I'm all set. I don't have any questions on that.
All right, sounds good, Mary.
So my next item is for pedestrian bridge for Upstate Medical University. They want to install a pedestrian bridge going across the 700 block of Adams Street. And this is to connect their proposed Upstate Health and Wellness Center to the main hospital. So it's on Adams Street between Almond Street and Sarah Logan. We reviewed the plans and they meet the minimum clearance requirements, and we don't see that it's going to pose any problem in our right of way. So I have legislation with normal terms and conditions for revocable permission for installing this bridge. at no cost to the city. The only condition that's really different is the revocable nature of it. Instead of, we can revoke our permission, but they would have a year to remove the structure, should we deem that it be necessary to remove. Normally, if we revoke the permission, they would have 90 days to remove it. But since it's such a big structure, we allow them a year.
Looking over real quickly, Mary, how tall is it from the road?
The minimum clearance over the roadway by state law is 16 feet, and I believe the clearance is, I think it's around 17 something or 18 something. I do have a rendering that I could forward to you if you're interested in looking at that they sent to us.
Okay. And then, obviously there's a bunch of these downtown. Do we run into issues with them ever? I mean, is there maintenance issues? Are we concerned about it at all?
Well, it's their responsibility to maintain them. We've asked that they, in this revocable permission, that they inspect the bridge on a biannual basis and send us the inspection reports. There is no state law that really requires inspection of pedestrian bridges, although professionally, I think it's a good idea. So we've asked for that inspection every 2 years.
Okay. Councilor Carney, you okay with this one?
Yep, I'm good with that as well.
No other questions from anyone else?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay, my last item is related to a project, new warehouse at 738 Erie Boulevard West. Renali is, well, I guess I should back up a little bit. We abandoned a section of the 500 block of Tracy Street, and but we retained an easement for utilities, water, sewer, and National Grid. There's a section of the easement where now Renali wants to build a warehouse crossing the abandoned portion of Tracy Street, and the water main and sewer main have been deemed that they're not needed. There's no connections to the sewer main. And so we're asking giving them permission to abandon the section of sewer and water main so that they can build their warehouse, which is part of a bigger project, but I will be coming back to you once I've worked out with Grid that they don't need the easement. So will be coming back to you with further legislation to extinguish the easement in the abandonment. But this at least keeps the project going so that they can proceed.
Questions on this? Okay.
I'm all set with this. This is, yeah.
Good. Thanks, Mary.
That's all I have for items on this next agenda.
Okay. Thank you. I don't believe we have anyone from water, so I don't think we have any items for that. Mary Vossler, do you want to talk about City Hall? If you are trying to, you're on mute right now. So.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so I am on the behalf of the Department of Engineering amending the previous ordinance 187-2020 that authorized the $100,000 for the repairs to City Hall due to the water pipe break that happened in March. I've been working with Travelers Insurance Company, and since the city hired these vendors on an emergency basis, they have requested that we pay these vendors from city funds, and then they will reimburse us once that happens. So in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been gathering all the estimates from the company, and it's totaling around $605,000. The majority of that is for asbestos abatement in the damaged areas of the central payment office and the mayor's suite. The asbestos abatement in the central payment office was completed, I believe, on Friday, and they are currently working in the mayor's suite. So we expect that to be done soon. Travelers has an advance to us of $250,000 that we received on Friday. So we put that into the city's accounts. They will audit all of the invoices from Kroll Contracting, who is the asbestos abatement contractor, and Trademark Restorations, who did the damage remediation and will do the reconstruction. The city will not be balance billed for anything on these bills that Travelers considers not reimbursable. So we need to increase the project cost and increase the financing cost so that we can pay these vendors. The only thing outside of this that we have done that's not covered by insurance will be a $40,000 of asbestos abatement work that will be done down in the central payment office and a portion up in the mayor's office. These ceilings and areas were not damaged by the water main break or water pipe break, but since a vendor was already in there doing the abatement work, CNS engineers recommended they continue on in those areas so that, you know, this future plan for the city was to do all this asbestos work. So, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 months down the line, when we go back to this project, we won't have to have any operational disruptions in those areas. So it was decided to do that now. Any questions?
Yeah, so just logistically, when this rolls out, so did we have a pre-existing contract with this contractor for like an hourly rate, or how did that process work?
There's 2 main contractors involved. There is the Trademark Restorations, who did the damage remediation, Kevin Henry called him in to start that work. They brought in, and I'm not quite sure how it all happened, but they brought in Kroll Contracting, who does the asbestos work. The city has dealt with Kroll before in some other asbestos work that we have had done. So we're familiar with, in fact, I think they did the work over in Berry Park about 3 months ago or 2 months ago.
So, so did we have a rate that they had agreed to before and they're on call? Like if this were to happen tomorrow in a different part of City Hall, like do we have a pre-approved rate that they would charge?
There isn't a pre-approved rate, but they have to abide by prevailing wage rates, and they have to provide by any city rules and procedures that we have.
So who is it within the city that is kind of agreeing to the scope of what it is that they need to do?
There's been a number of different departments. Kelly Haggerty in the engineering department, CNS was called in within hours after this event occurred to give their professional advice to the city. Kevin Henry, in charge of buildings, was also called in and has been dealing with these contractors. Frank Kaliva was involved initially. You know, I've been involved as the insurance go-between, you know, Travelers and some of these vendors.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't know if it's possible. I mean, I know when I did property management and there's a flood, you're going to pay whatever you have to pay pretty much, because what are you going to do? Your building's flooding.
Right,
so
but
to the extent that we can like have someone on call and we have a pre-approved like labor rate that we just know, you know, if you need to do 100 hours of work, it's going to cost us 100 times whatever that rate is. It just becomes less.
I don't think the city has proactively done that to have somebody on call. It's like you see water running down your hallways, you're going to call whoever you know quickly to get here quickly and to start the remediation work.
Right. Okay. So, and then just in a summary, so I mean, the total amount of work we have is 605,000, correct?
Approximately right. The reconstruction of the first and second floors is estimated around 200,000. Kelly Haggerty and I had long conversations with that vendor, and he told us it would be probably a not to exceed around 200.
Okay. And the total amount that's not going to be reimbursed is 40,000?
Well, the $100,000 deductible that we have on our policy plus this $40,000 for the additional asbestos work, abatement work. At some point, I'll probably be coming back again, because what's not in this piece of legislation is what we're going to be reimbursed for the personal property, the desks, the chairs, there's some appliances, a refrigerator, dishwasher up in the mayor's kitchen. We are still gathering that together to give to travelers insurance.
Any questions on this from councilors?
Nope, I'm all set.
All right. Thank you, Mary.
Okay, thanks, Counselor.
Any other items before we break up? All right. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jim Conroy, we got the road reconstruction, the State Street mill and pave, Upstate permit for the pedestrian bridge, Rosselli, the abandoned sewer main, and then the city hall. You can call me if you have a question.
Councilor Green, sorry, I forgot to mute myself. We had,
Go ahead.
so it was the road recon, and then the 3 items from Mary were, the first one was a little cloudy, as well as the third. It was
It has to do with, so State Street, mill and pave.
Okay. State Street, pedestrian bridge, and then the last one, did you get the address on that?
I don't remember, but it's the, I think it's Rosselli. It's the abandoned sewer main one. It's over on the west side there.
It's an abandonment. Okay.
I can forward you that email for that. And then the city hall water damage.
Okay. I actually emailed her while we were talking. Well, Mary was talking, so it's okay. I'm all set. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.